Thank you for joining me today, watching me on my YouTube channel. So today's episode is about Dear Varkha. The questions you have asked are going to be answered by me, and I will refer to you as Mr. X, Mr. Y and Mr. Z. Of course, you'll be able to identify your questions and listen in to my answers. Why is my boyfriend telling me stories about his sexual past? So many times people talk about their past because they want to gauge our reactions to their past. Whether we react with horror, whether we react with indifference, whether we get really agitated and upset, whether we spew jealousy. So to them, our reactions determine how much we feel or how little we feel for them. What you possibly need to do is tell your boyfriend to stop referring to his past. Of course, this is not the only reason that usually people talk about their past. Many times, unfortunately, people, because of their own insecurities, want to show off their prowess, how many girlfriends they've had, how well they've done sexually, etc., etc. But as I said, I think telling your boyfriend to stop talking about the past and building on your relationship with each other in the present is a message you'd possibly like to give him. I go out to work every day, leaving my 2-year-old baby in the care of my mother-in-law and an ayah. Am I being foolish in worrying that my baby is growing closer to my mother-in-law and the ayah than to me? Is your concept of love so brittle that you believe a 2-year-old will forget who her mother is? So, I think what we need to reassure ourselves is that a mother is irreplaceable. But I know that sounds like cheap solace. So what I'd like to inform you is that for children, out of sight is out of mind. For a 2-year-old, the ayah is her helper who is helping her solve her problems. So, but naturally, in the course of the day, when she's spent so much of time with her, it is only expected that she would run to her at the sight of trouble. And about your mother-in-law, I think it's important to know that there are different kinds of love and all of them can coexist. There's sexual and romantic love, there's motherly love, there's grandmotherly love, there's friendly love. You have to be reassured that your daughter and you share a different kind of love which will be irreplaceable. So for children, absence does not make the heart grow fonder. For them, especially as young as a 2-year-old, solving problems is what they look up to. And what she relates to her grandmother is a grandmotherly love and to the ayah as a problem solver. Be reassured that this connect between mother and daughter is irreplaceable and you will feel less anxious as a parent. My daughter seems to be falling ill repeatedly and the timing of her illness is around the time of her exams. Our physician says there seems to be no cause for the same and has suggested that this could be psychological. Could you help? A lot of exam anxiety is unfortunately prevalent today. So where a child is possibly unaware that her physical symptoms are largely caused by emotional aspects to the fear of examination, the fear of results, a lot of children unfortunately today are coming up with complaints like stomachache, headaches, backaches, insomnia, etc., etc. It would be important for you to sit down with your daughter and understand the cause of her anxiety. Is she afraid of not doing as well as she would like to do? Is she feeling the pressure that you may be putting on her? Is she simply feeling peer pressure and believing that she has to be on the top of her class and unable to cope with the fact that she may not always be able to do as well as she would like to, is unfortunately getting emotionally worked up, as a result of which the body is throwing up these symptoms of headache, etc. I would say a consultation with a qualified psychotherapist at this point would be important for her to manage her anxiety. It definitely seems like anxiety is the culprit behind these psychosomatic complaints. Why do people get suicidal thoughts? There are many reasons why people can have suicidal thoughts. First of all, don't panic if you've ever had one in your life, because it's not uncommon to think that one may want to do something to harm himself or herself. But that doesn't mean that just because you think it, you're necessarily going to do it. Of course, it's not that if you think it, you should ignore it. You have to pay attention as to how repetitively those thoughts are coming and at what frequency and at what intensity. So in my practice, I've noticed that there are two kinds of possible reasons that people have suicidal thoughts. One, when they feel completely hopeless and despairing and believe nothing in their life is ever going to improve. And the second, in a moment of panic, say when they've not got their marks and they decide they're not going to be able to show their face to the world, they may do something as drastic as possibly hanging themselves. Or when a man, for example, has suddenly lost a lot of money on the stock market or made some poor business decisions, he believes that he'll never be able to reclaim that kind of money and in panic decides to kill himself. So there are two reasons why usually people would want to harm themselves. One, when they've lost hope and are despairing, and in the second, when they're panic stricken and possibly believe that there is nothing which would alter in the short term. Thank you for joining me again. See you again next week.